Hey, it's Random Code here, and today I want to showcase how we get some information from an API using Python. And I am using the simple library requests, which we imported through pip. So when downloading Python, normally you would have pip installed, which is kind of like a second installer. So this request library we can add to our Python setup on our computer by doing pip3 install, and then whatever we're going to be installing, in this case requests, which I will already have installed, but if you didn't install it already, it will install like that. So that's how we add this library that we're going to be using requests. We then simply have an input, which is an URL that returns some JSON elements. In this case, I am using the page method weather, which is kind of like a public API, which we can just use to get this information. For example, we just input method weather, API, location, search, query, and then city, London, for example. We'll get the title, location type, and then a WU ID, which is an ID we can then use to get the weather from this specific position on Earth. So we would then use Python, get this data, get the WU ID, and then input it into API location, WU ID, and we then get the weather and the weather for the next few days. That is, in this case, an example of how we can use it. But then what we actually do in Python, it's actually very, very simple. We just have some kind of input string, which is our URL, and then have a simple function, which gets some data from an URL, like in this case, this URL. We then have a response variable, which is going to be getting the input from our request library.get, and then simply use the URL. And this response is then going to contain our information. We then get the information by simply doing response.json. And in this case, when I then run this file, we get the output. As we just saw on Chrome, get this JSON object that contains our title, location type, and a WU ID. Then we could get the WU ID from this and then put it into a different URL and get the weather, for example. But it's more the basic concept that in Python it is very, very simple. We just simply use this request library, which then just simply request, get some information, get the JSON part of this information, and then we have it. So it is a very simple setup where we can just use any API to get the information we would like. So if you enjoyed this quick showcase of how we can use APIs to get information in Python, please leave a like and subscribe, and I wish you all a wonderful day.